All right, guys, I'm gonna start this thing recording because I don't know what to say, so I'm gonna start just recording so I can get into the flow. Let me just talk shit. Back when I was about 18 years old, right? I had just got my GED in high school, and I had just figured out that I was gonna be a full-time entrepreneur. So um, I was really fucked up on drugs at the time. I was living in my grandma, a room inside the back of my grandma's apartment, and it was like a really small room, almost like a little storage room, you would consider. And I said, I'm gonna change my life now. I'm gonna go ahead and chase my dreams. So I called my mom, and I had just graduated maybe about like a month or so before that. I was set to go to college for I was gonna go for computer development, right? So I hadn't signed up for the semester yet. I hadn't really done any of the work to actually get that done. And I call my mom and I say, Mom, I want to move to California again. I want to move back and start my career as an entrepreneur. And, what ended up happening was that my mom, at the time, this was the first time that I did anything that was worth, that was an accomplishment in my life. Like, actually, like, for a long time in my school career and in my life, I always failed at things. I always gave up and I didn't really care to have accomplishments under my belt. So this was the first time that I really had accomplished anything. And she saw me in this trajectory where it was like, I'm scared of letting him come back home. And as time went on, I just convinced her. I said, let me come back home. Let me get into real estate. Let me do what I got to do to, further my life and further my career. And I didn't tell her, but I was really struggling with drugs at the time, and I was genuinely really, depressed in my situation. So this was like kind of like my escape to what I wanted to accomplish. Now, here, let me turn my phone off real quick. I end up leaving, right? I end up flying back home. I made that call on a Monday. By Thursday, all my stuff was packed, and I flew back to California. When I get to California, I have this long hair, and I'm like living life, right? I'm kind of still figuring things out, but I was like, fuck it, we gotta, get on board. We gotta start moving, and something clicked inside of me. So I went, found a job, found a sales job. I was working at this gym, and at the time, I said, I'm just gonna try really, really hard. Like I'm just gonna give it everything I fucking have and make something of myself because I had already come to the conclusion that nobody's gonna do it for me. So I'm working at this fucking gym and I'm trying to get my life together. And as I'm working at this gym, one day my sister that I had just reconnected with had came to California to see her boyfriend, and he used to live down in San Diego, so she was down in that area, and I'm in this little small hick town in the middle of the desert called Palmdale. And she calls me and she's like, "Hey, come see me. I found my boyfriend doing something he's not supposed to be doing, and come give me a visit." So at the time, I had just got my first car, and I take this 3.5 hour drive down to San Diego and meet up with my sister. And she's like, we're hanging out the whole entire day, sitting down, talking about life. I'm 18 years old at the time. She's probably 23 or something along those lines. And I tell her I want to get into real estate, like this is where I see my life being. This is where I see my career. And she's like, "Well, no shit. My boyfriend's actually in real estate." And I'm like, "Introduce me. I need to know him." She's like, "He's 23, he's 22 at the time, making 40, 50K a month. I think he's going to be a really good connection for you." So I get on the phone with him, and I I get on the phone with him, and I start telling him all about my dream, all about my aspirations, everything I'm supposed to like, everything I want to accomplish in my life, right? And he goes, "Well, Justin, like, I can teach you how to do it. Come have a meeting with me in in Beverly Hills." So I take my mom to this meeting, right? A few weeks later, a few weeks go by, and we have this fucking meeting, and we're sitting down, and he's like this 22-year-old, and just imagine like we're sitting at this Beverly Hills restaurant, and right, I don't come from I come from very humble beginnings. Everybody in my family does, and he's like this 22-year-old kid we came from the same city, New York, and he's sitting in front of my mom. And imagine this is a glass of wine. He's spinning this glass of wine like this red glass of wine. And he tells my mom, he's like, "Yeah, I can make your son a lot of money. We're gonna invest these houses in Detroit. Blase, 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 blase. And he we leave the meeting. We leave the meeting and my mom gets in the car and she goes, "He's a scammer. Like 100% scammer. You're not investing your money with him." So I said, "Cool." I'm hurt as fuck. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I am like hurt because this is like, I see this as my way out. I'm stuck in this tiny little fuck two city in the middle of nowhere. And this is like my fucking ticket out the city. So I go, okay, fuck it. What are the other options? What other option do I possibly have? How can I fucking possibly get out of this place? So she goes and takes me to her investor because my mom's a realtor and she had this investor that she had been working for with a few years, for a few years. And so we get back in the car and we start driving to this guy's house. And she's like, "I'm going to show you what a real investor looks like." So we pull up to this house in Tarzana, California, and these huge fucking gates open up. And we're driving through the gates, and there's a massive fucking house on the other side. Probably the biggest house I had ever seen in my life at the time. And I walk in this house, and it's just imagine a massive floor plan, open floor plan. I could see into his backyard. In his backyard, he has 2 huge other houses. Those are his guest houses. And a huge pool in the middle. And I sit down and I start telling this guy, "Listen, I'm going to invest in my money in these houses in Detroit. I had a little bit of money from a car accident. You know, it's a different story. But I'm going to invest my money into these houses in Detroit. And I'm going to go ahead and get rich. All right, I'm going to get rich." And the guy goes, "Justin, I'm so sorry to tell you, this is a scam." And I'm like, "All right, well, fuck it. How are you going to help me?" And he's like, "Listen, I'll invest the money for you. I'll teach you how I flip houses. And, you know, you can go ahead and learn from somebody who actually does this." Mind you, beautiful house, beautiful home, has French bulldogs running around the fucking property and everything. Like, it's like just everything that you could possibly imagine. So I go, "All right, that's fine. Let's do it." So I give him $20,000 and we go ahead and start working on this house, you know. And mind you, I'm a very ambitious kid. Like at the time I was 18 years old and I really just wanted to make it out. I had just turned 18 maybe 3 months before that. And I knew that this $20,000 was supposed to go to my college was my way out. You know, I had to make it out. I had no other option. I had to become rich. I had to become successful. This is everything I fucking have, and this is all I have. So this is my one chance. And, you know, I go ahead and invest this money with him, and a few months go by, right? And these guys, you know, I've been in contact with them. The guy that I was supposed to invest money with originally, my mom said was a scammer. I'm supposed to, you know, invest money with him, I've been in contact with him the whole entire time, kind of keeping him updated on my situation, whatnot, and what, you know, whatever. So November comes around and he invites me to Thanksgiving at his house. I come to Thanksgiving, we hang out, we drink, have a good time, chop it up, and we leave it at that. When I went there, I just felt like these guys are my age. They're making money. They had some chains, some watches. What I wanted as a kid. You know, when you're coming up and when you see success, sometimes it's easier to understand success than you could comprehend. So when you're this broke ass kid coming up in life, you can't comprehend the big house yet. You can't comprehend, you know, building up your own building. You can't comprehend that yet because you don't have that, you know, that person that looks like you that did it. And for me, it was like these guys looked like me. You know, these guys looked like me. They were similar age to me. And this investor, God bless his soul, was, you know, a lot older than me. He probably came from similar background to me, but I just couldn't comprehend it because it was way too far out. So what these guys gave me was dream and vision. I got a vision from them that I could comprehend and understand. So when I go to this house, right? I'm sitting down with them for Thanksgiving, and the chains, the watches, Porsche Panamera, mind you, that thing was older. But to me, I was driving a beat up Honda and then eventually a Mazda. So it was, you know, it was a dream, a dream. So to drive whatever looked fucking fancy. It didn't matter if it was old, new, or whatever the case may be, right? So fast forward, right? I got back to Palmdale. I lived my normal life, and I just was convinced that I had to be with these guys, you know. And I already had invested my money into the property in Tarzana, so I had to figure out a way to possibly do this, you know. One day my dad says, you know, hey, let's go to TJ. I got to go to the dentist out there. You know, when you're growing up and you live in California, you don't got a lot of money, so you go to the dentist in Tijuana. So I go to the dentist in TJ with my dad, and I'm out there with him, and we're driving back to LA. We're driving back to LA, and I'm telling him, you know, these guys lived in Oceanside by San Diego, so I'm like, you know, stop by this house real quick. I want to just talk to these guys. I'm going to tell them I'm coming. I just believe in this vision so much. And he's like, you know what? Chase it. Fuck it. Chase it. Who's going to stop you? So he stops by this house, you know, probably 11 at night. And I come in and I'm sitting down with the guys and I'm telling them, look, this property's not moving fast enough for me in Tarzana. I should have gone with you guys. What do I do? And they were like, fuck it. Pull out the deal and come invest it with us. Okay. So I get back home to Palmdale and I tell my mom my grand fucking plan. I'm going to pull out this deal. I'm going to move to fucking San Diego with the guys that she thought were scammers, and I'm going to change my life. And I do that, right? I do that. I tell her. She thinks it's a horrible idea, right? She doesn't support it. It is what it is. I get my money out this property. And I call them back, and I'm sitting. I remember I would make my calls from the fucking gym I was working at because I was working a full-time job. So I pick up this fucking old dial phone, type their fucking numbers in, and they pick up. And I say, hey, I got the money ready. He's like, listen, man. The price for flipping houses in Detroit just went up to $40,000 for the men. I'm fucking distraught. I'm sitting in this cubicle, thinking, well, I just fucked up my one chance. So I'm like, all right, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? He's like, listen, I just found out about this thing called wholesale real estate. We're figuring it out, but I'm going to send you some properties over. Maybe you can help us move them. All right, cool. Send me some properties over, right? Nothing too crazy. I don't know shit about real estate like that other than like the realtor side because I grew up in it because of my mom. So I'm trying to sell these fucking properties on my phone, blah, blah, blah. Nothing's fucking happening. 3 days later, he calls me and says, hey, Justin, I got a deal for you. Listen, I'll mentor you for $20,000 for a full year. I'll teach you everything I know, and we'll get running. You'll travel with me. At the time, he was just starting up his personal brand. You'll travel with me. You'll do all this. And sold me the fucking dream. Bet. I'm there. If it's anywhere but here, I am there. And to explain something to you guys before I continue this story, it was that the power of being around the vision and proximity to the vision sometimes is more powerful than what the outcome could possibly be. Because for me, it was that I needed to be around this vision. I needed to be around a world where people thought in hundreds of thousands and in millions and not in tens, 20s, and hundreds. Even if it meant leaving my old life behind. Even if it meant leaving my old life behind, it was, I need to go ahead and be around the people that are going to define me as a human being. And I need to change my environment because it didn't matter what my money situation was, if I worked at a 9 to 5, if I just had a dream in my brain, I was going to do anything that I possibly could do to accomplish that. It meant leaving my family behind, making people think that I'm fucking crazy, quitting this job, moving out, the whole entire nine. So regardless, right? I say, okay, I'm down. Let's do it. I traveled to New York with him, and he's like, all right, before you pay me, come to this trip with me to New York, and we'll go ahead and, get started that way, right? So boom, I call out of my fucking job. I tell him I'm sick, and I already knew I was gonna quit. I knew that my life was going to change. Like, I just knew it. I knew it. Like, I in the deepest core of my soul, I fucking knew that everything was about to change. And I take this trip to New York. And mind you, I grew up in New York, so I'm like in the hood in New York. So it's nothing new to me. I've been there my whole entire life, or not my whole entire life, but I jumped back and forth my whole entire life. Funny thing, this guy ended up living down the street from my grandmother, where I grew up. Like literally down the block. So I was like, wow, what are the coincidences in that? Fuck, that's crazy. That same night, he's speaking at this little event. Maybe have like 30 people show up, 25 people show up, tiny event. But to me, I didn't look at it like that. I looked at it like, wow. There is fucking 30 people here, 40 people here that want to make money. This is crazy. I didn't know, like, what? This isn't, look at all these people. They're all looking to get rich. And I thought most of them were rich, to be honest. In my brain, I was like, fuck, I'm so broken, so poor. They're like, everybody here is probably rich. Like, mind you, like, after the 20K, I didn't look at the 20K as my 20K because, one, I never made it myself. Two, it was my ticket out. It was my ticket out. I probably had like $200 in my bank account, but it was just, this is my ticket out. It's my fucking ticket. And mind you, mentorship online wasn't very common back then, so it was, something like different for me. And I just, it wasn't like now where, you could go get a fucking mentor for $100, $200, $1,000, $10,000. They're fucking everywhere. It wasn't like that. This was a unknown, extremely high risk. But whatever. So I remember that night we get one of his buddies comes, or one of his students from his Detroit stuff comes, and he's in a Range Rover. I've never been in a Range Rover in my life. I get in the Range Rover. I'm like, I remember texting this girl I was talking to at the time, like, damn, I'm in a fucking Range Rover with millionaires. And they probably weren't even millionaires at the time, but God, I was sold, bro. I was fucking sold the dream. And it didn't require anything other than letting me see it. I was like, fuck, I could see it with my eyes. I could touch the fucking leather in this Range. This guy has a little chain, maybe worth $2,000, $1,000, but damn, that shit could have been worth fucking $500, and I would have believed that it was $1 million chain. Because it was just like, I had never seen it with my eyes. I end this trip off, fly back to California. He calls me, says I'm coming in back. He stayed a few days back in New York. And he calls me, says I'm flying into Cali. Come pick me up at the airport. And we'll go start working in San Diego. Okay. I told my mom I'm gonna leave now. I'm moving out. I got the money. I'm gonna move out now. And she's like, all right, well, she wasn't supporting it. But mind you, San Diego was far from me, guys. 3.5 hours. So my plan was this. I had a suitcase and a duffel bag. And I packed all my shit in the suitcase. And then I had the duffel bag. And I packed a little bit of stuff in the duffel bag. And I said, I'm going to show up inside the house with the duffel bag. So they think I'm only here for a few days. But I'm going to have my suitcase in the car because I'm going to sleep in the car and be able to come back and forth inside the house. So I'll sleep in the car. Excuse me. I'm going to sleep in the car. And I'm going to just hang out there until they kick me out. Boom. And then I'll come back and forth, right? My $20,000 is going to run its fucking path. And I'm going to learn everything I possibly can. Because that is who I am. I will go ahead and get every single bit of information. And I'm going to apply it at the highest at the highest level I will apply. Now, I get there and immediately they put me to work. right? So what I didn't know was that they were still a startup with the wholesale side of things. They didn't really have it figured out yet, and which is fine, whatever. They told me I was gonna pay for a wholesale mentorship. God knows they didn't have the wholesale shit figured out. But what I really paid for was proximity. That's what I genuinely really paid for, proximity. And guys, like sometimes it's like, God has these disguises for your blessings that you don't know are there. And you just have to see the gold in them, because there's gold in every fucking thing. So I'm working my fucking ass off now. I got this list that I'm cold calling, and I'm fucking happy as I could be. I'm just working as hard as I possibly can be. 2 months in, I got my first deal. Sorry, I'm lying. 2 weeks in, I got my first deal. And the company made $26,000 off that deal. I took home $6,000. I was taking 33% commission on that deal. And boom, the company's open now. We're getting an office. I walk into the office. There's a little whiteboard that says on it 10% for acquisitions. Boom, I got a job there. It's really what I was there for. And my whole idea, my mindset was that, okay, fuck it. This isn't what I expected it to be. But if I work hard enough and I work consistently enough, and if I work to the point where it's undeniable that I'm working my dick off, they can't tell me to leave. That was my mindset. They won't tell me to leave if they see how hard I am working. Now I make this $6,000 and I'm thinking, damn, I'm going to make $6,000 every 2 weeks. It's over. I'm rich. That wasn't the case. I didn't close another deal for 9 fucking months. For 9 months, I didn't close another deal. And for those 9 months, I stayed broke. I went hungry. I didn't have food for gas. I still drove to the fucking office every day. I didn't make any excuses for myself. And I worked as hard as a human could possibly work. I worked to the point where I wanted to outwork everybody. I said, that person next to me is working this hard, I will work harder. Because if my asset right now is my time, then I will invest all of it. I will invest all my time because that is all I have to give. I gave my money. My money is gone. Now I have time. I will give you my time, and in return, I will gain experience. And when I gain experience one day I will be rich. And I just knew it. I knew it. I just knew it from the bottom of my soul. One day I will be rich. It might not be today. It might not be tomorrow, but it will be one day. I moved to New York with them. Then we moved to Florida. And I got around more people that make a lot of money. And I still wasn't making a lot of money. I was still figuring things out. I was still trying to come to terms with what my life was, destined to be. So it comes down to me telling them I'm going to leave and start my own company. It was a month before that I prayed to God and told him just keep me moving. I told him, there's a picture on my Instagram from when I was 18 years old. And I said, by the time I'm 21, I'm going to make $1 million. I didn't know how. I didn't know why. I didn't know where. I didn't know how the fuck it was even supposed to happen, because the dream was so absurd that it didn't make sense. And I do it. But now before I do it, my life was living hell. Broke, hungry, struggling, depressed. And I remember one day I was standing outside this house in Florida that I couldn't afford $400 a month in rent in. And I said, God, if I don't hit my goal next year, I understand. But I will do everything in my life, and I will do everything in my power to keep working, because I know the success will come from the work. I start my company next month. And the way I started my company was that I painted a vision for people. I said, look, guys, I called a buddy of mine from high school and I said, hey, you know, I had this image of success, so let me use it. Hey man, let's start a company up. You find the employees. I'll tell you everything to do. We're gonna launch. Let's go. He goes and finds these kids that dropped out of high school, or not high school dropouts, high school graduates. And I get on the phone with them and I paint the vision. This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna accomplish. This is what life is gonna be. And month one, with the help of a friend, he gave me some data to run. I borrowed some money to pay my rent. Had a little bit of money left over. Bought a dialer. I had about $800. Right. I borrowed some money for rent, and at the time the COVID stuff was happening, so I had the unemployment stuff. I got $800. Bought a dialer. Put these guys on the phone. We started going. First month, $20,000. Second month, I mean, my partner, a guy that was ended up being my partner for years. Very, very fucking amazing person. Very amazing person. And by month 3, $100,000. Month 4, $150,000. Month 5, $200,000. 7 months in, $1 million company. And you know what year that landed in? 2021. Sometimes we don't know what God has planned for us in those moments. When I was standing in front of that whiteboard at 18 years old, writing my goals and mission and vision down, I said, 2021, I will have a $1 million company. Wrote $1 million. Didn't know how, didn't know when, didn't know who, didn't know any fucking thing. But I wrote it and I dreamed it and I manifested it. And then I didn't know that for those 2 years from 2018 to 2021, what is that? 2019, 2020, 20. For those 3 years, a little bit less than that, about 2.5 years from the moment that I started to the moment that I hit that goal, I didn't know that I was going to go hungry. I didn't know that I was going to want to give up. I didn't know that people were going to look down on me because I was working so fucking hard. I didn't know I was going to become a competitive animal from literally a bum to a competitive ass person. I didn't know that I was going to be tested in any and every facet that I could be. I didn't know. I didn't fucking know. But God knew. And when I stood there and I said, wow, we hit this goal, I learned that it doesn't matter how big the dream is. If you decide to set forth on that path, you will go through every fucking obstacle that you need to become the person that you're destined to be. So yeah, my first $1 million came fast in reality, right? Because I was 18 years old when I started, and it was before I turned 21 years old. So I was about 20 years old when I made it. It wasn't about the $1 million themselves, or me being 20 years old and making that much money, or the way it felt, but it was about every obstacle that I had to face to become the person that I truly wanted to be. So sometimes it's better to fail forward and fail 1,000,000 times than it is to give up in the moment, because you might be right there, right at the gold, and you don't even realize. So sometimes just 4, 5, 6 more steps. And I did this little trick for myself when I really wanted to give up. I said, tomorrow I'll give up. Today I'm not going to give up. Tomorrow I'll give up. And I did the same thing the next day. Tomorrow I'll give up. Today I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up today. Today I'm going to work really, really hard. But tomorrow I'm done. And I did that over and over and over and over and over again. Because that was the only way I was able to trick my mind that it was going to be okay. And sometimes you just need to bet on tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day. But today, you're going to work your living ass off. All right, guys. Thank you for watching.